The Daily Solutions. This is the podcast.
All right. That was
Hello.
real. We really did that.
Yeah, there's us just with our throats. It's hard. I was smiling a lot, so it sounds like I'm joking, but we've been practicing.
That was, yeah,
we've been
actually-
practicing throat singing.
About like 6 months now, we've been
We're
genuinely
getting pretty-
practicing.
Yeah,
so
we're getting pretty good. Ask
Yeah.
us to do it in person sometime.
yeah, we will.
Get this little whistle.
Most of the Float Conference this year is just going to be us on stage doing that.
Today's question is, how long have you been practicing throat singing? Today's question is pros/cons/feedback received/opinions
Oh,
on different types of head support, i.e., pool noodle versus donut versus something I've never heard of.
good question.
Yeah, well, something you've never heard of sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, something we've never heard of sounds even more exciting. Right?
So if you want to go with that, that's
I'd go with
probably
that,
just to
probably the
skip
right
straight to the
option.
end, you know.
It is a good question. There's a lot of various neck pillows out there, and like the search for the perfect neck pillow. I feel
golden
like.
neck pillow.
Yeah, it's been like a quest that many float center owners have been on for many years, and at the end of the day, the real answer to this is that people's bodies are different.
Yep.
They have different shaped heads and, different weights of their, more brains than other people or something. It makes their heads heavier. And so...
Thicker skulls, I think, is the...
so there really is, there's not, one neck pillow that's going to be, the perfect one for every person.
Yeah, so we have kind of a default that we keep in our rooms, and then
Yeah.
we still keep backups, though, of... What, at least three other
3,
types?
4. We've
Yeah.
we've tried so many different neck pillows. But here's a few things that I would say are what kind of make neck pillows good.
And then we'll get into the specifics.
Then we'll get into the specifics. From the actual floater's perspective, it's always nice to have something that allows your ears to stay under the water.
And from the business owner's perspective.
And from the business owner's perspective, yeah. Mostly because if your ears are above the water, you've lost a lot of soundproofing.
A ton of
Huge
soundproofing.
amount.
Maybe you lost 70% of the soundproofing that was actually in that tank.
Yeah, ears underwater really contribute a lot to not hearing noise, everything from voices to, you dropping something in the lobby, all that sort of stuff. It really is helped by the fact that people's ears are underwater. So that, if you have one that's not buoyant enough to take people's heads all the way out and keep their ears above, it's probably going to make sure that they have a better float noise-wise.
In fact, in so much so that in Float On, if we hear complaints of people hearing sounds of, especially people talking or something more in the vocal range that's obviously airborne and not vibrational, one of the first things I used to ask them, because we used to use pool noodles, which definitely kept people's ears out of the water, was just, did you use the neck pillow? And almost always the answer was yes, because it just does. If you want a disturbing experience in your own float center, definitely float with just your ears out of the water, and you'll be able to hear so much. It's really distracting. But the truth is, the majority of your floaters don't experience that because their ears are below. So number one important factor is keep their ears below the water. Yeah.
And I'd say the other thing that's really a nice thing to keep in mind as you're looking at various neck pillows is how easy it is to clean, because you're going to be cleaning these all the time. And so if they're in any way porous or have some sort of material on them that absorbs liquid, then you're going to have a lot of salt you're going to have to get out of things. It's going to be hard to properly sanitize over and over and over again. All that stuff is going to make it pretty difficult. And I guess kind of along with that is how robust it is, because you're going to be cleaning these things again over and over and over again. So that if that's wearing through them pretty fast, you're going to go through a lot of neck pillows. I've noticed inflatable ones didn't really last that long for us. We would just have to constantly buy new ones because they kept popping.
And especially inflatable ones, that kind of little soft microfiber sort of fuzz. Yeah. That's bad in every regard, right? They held people's ears out of the water. They had little fuzzy thing on them that just collected a ton of salt that was hard to clean. They wore down really fast. It was hard to keep the right level of air even in them for a comfortable float.
So those are kind of the generalities, I'd say, that make a good neck pillow.
And not slipping out from under your head.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess like actually performing as a good neck pillow seems like a good criteria.
Yeah. But things that will stay under your head in regular water will not in the salt water, just because it's so slippery. So, even with pool noodles, they have to be a certain length so the pool noodle doesn't just shoot off from underneath your neck, right?
Yeah. I guess not being ridiculous, like not just putting a blow-up doll in there to kind of rest your head against, It's an important
a bit
factor.
of class, although now that you've said that, I kind of want just blow-up arm or something, maybe not a full doll. Nice.
So in terms of specifics, there actually is a float neck pillow made specifically for the float industry.
Yep, and I'm releasing it very soon. It's going to be this whole doll arm thing that it actually feels very much like you're laying in bed, next to someone. It's just like
and it's the perfect neck pillow. It's going to be great for everybody's heads.
Yep, easy to clean, keeps your ears under the water.
You can grab things with it. It's an arm.
Incredibly dear. It'll last longer than you will.
So there's the Float Halo, made by Floaties.
Shout out to Float Halo! That is our default pillow that we use in our rooms.
Yeah.
Too.
So they made them specifically for the float industry. They fit nice under people's heads. They keep people's ears under the water. They're easy to clean. And they're
pretty durable. We really have not had to replace too many of them.
Yeah. So that's definitely a good one to check out.
And they're releasing a new model if they haven't already. I admit I haven't been back to their website in a little bit of time because they're so durable. There's no reason to go back and just peruse because everything lasts for years. So they were going to release a new model that's extra thick, too, for extra support. So part of the deal is, and the reason people want to switch neck pillows as well. Sorry, I'm going to get off track now. Is there anything else you want to say about floaties?
No, that's it.
Okay, so they're releasing an extra thick one for extra support, but that'll probably hold people's ears out of the water. So floaties is kind of designed to give support and has a little hole in the middle so that people's heads don't move around and all of this stuff that we were talking about. But some people legitimately have fused discs or something where their neck can't be at an angle where their ears would even be comfortably in the water or sometimes safely in the water. So you do need these alternatives that will hold people's heads a little more rigidly in place and oftentimes out of the water, just basically give them that extra angle incline on their neck. And so that's not going to be as good for soundproofing. Pretty much if we're ever giving someone a neck pillow that is not the Halo, we warn them that it might be a little less soundproof because their ears will be out of the water. But the comfort that it provides it's necessary to keep those on hand for sure.
And I'd say probably like the second best one we found is the Ovarium makes a neck pillow that it looks kind of crazy. Like it's almost like a helmet that you wear, like kind of like a Magneto style like thing you put on your head.
We'll put a picture in the show notes too.
Okay. Yeah, like it wraps around your head. There's some space for the ears, but it really does a nice job like fitting onto your head and really like sticking there and supporting you, and it keeps your ears under the water. And despite how weird everything I said sounds, it's actually decently comfortable. And it's not like an annoying thing to wear or anything like that.
We have at least one member who requests it every time they come in. Just like, hey, can you give me the head cage?
So that one's also really nice. Like I personally have really enjoyed wearing it during a float as I was trying it out.
Yeah, and I think Ovarium actually has a pretty large stock of them too. They're a little expensive because they're custom made, but definitely, feel free to write to Ovarium and check those out if you want to grab one for your center.
Yeah, also decently easy to clean.
Yep, yeah, super easy to clean.
There's also kind of a range of products that are made more for kind of pools and spas that I think Neck Doodle is like an example of one. And they come in different shapes and sizes and all that sort of stuff. But the one thing I particularly like about that style is I would say those are like the easiest to clean of almost anything I've found. They're actually covered in kind of a like latex.
I was going to say vinyl?
Yeah, something vinyl, probably vinyl. Yeah, like a kind of glossy vinyl material that as opposed to these other things like the Float Halo and the head cage, that are made of like foam, but like dense foam, so that they're not so porous. This one is actually just kind of like slick, and so in terms of cleaning it off, it's probably the easiest. Like it's not something that like the liquid will even penetrate into. Like the other ones penetrate a little bit, and you do have to kind of squeeze a little bit as you clean them and dry them to really get everything out.
The Neck Doodle also has a lot of surface area. So there's this other way that neck pillows are used besides just supporting your neck too, which is actually almost like a full body buoyancy kind of stretching device, right?
Uh-huh.
So I've seen people use the Neck Doodle even just like laying kind of stomach down and putting their arms across the Neck Doodle and resting their heads on that, and that gives them enough buoyancy that they're supported on not a face down float, but like stomach down in the tank.
Yeah.
So those are cool. I've also sseen people like put multiple neck doodles like on their arm and leg in the float tank for doing
Just
some
make a
weird
bed of neck
stretching.
doodles, kind
Yeah.
And there's also pool noodles has been something that people have been using for a long time because they fit under your neck. You usually have to chop them to be about 2 feet long.
Yeah, 2.5 feet.
Yeah, something like that. And
2.7 feet, I'll say.
those are about like an inflatable arm's length. Or so. Those are nice because if someone is really looking for that extra buoyancy, they do a really good job of supporting your neck. But they keep your ears above the water. They can be a little bit wily. You kind of want them to be that length so they're generally stable under your head and not slipping out. And they're probably the hardest to clean of everything we've put on here. It's pretty hard to find pool noodles that aren't decently porous and require a fair amount of like spraying and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's this whole method where you twist it. You know, you twist the noodle to compress it as you're running a rag kind of up along it. The old
You can tell we were using these for a long time, but yeah, that also breaks them. Like we had literally like a little back room with extra neck or pool noodles that would be cutting up every once in a while.
Pro tip too, if you do have any pool noodles, is poke a little hole going through the top of it, and then tie a string going through that, and then you can actually hang it up on a little hook.
Yeah.
And you can do a clever little fold it in half and kind of make like a more head-shaped like
little ring.
Yeah, you put the ring over one end of it.
Yeah. Or you can tie them together and you have little nunchucks. That's also I'd call that
customers
a
love that.
pro tip. I mean, it is funny. Like we'll tell customers if they do seem to like the neck pillows that we have other options, and then it's kind of like we open like this closet and there's 8 different other neck pillows back there. And you know, and it really just comes down to like some people, they try different ones and they find one that really works well for them, and it's different than the one that worked well for other people, and that's their neck pillow.
Do we have any that we just don't recommend or that we had serious issues with?
I mean, inflatable ones we didn't have a lot of luck with.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, we'd usually like half inflate them because it felt like full inflation was a little too much. But I don't know, they kept leaking and popping, and we'd go through them a little bit too quickly. Sometimes I find the neck doodle specifically like a little tight on the actual neck if you actually wear it. I think like you'd wear it in a pool. So I think you kind of more want to actually just rest your head on that one.
Yeah, almost
than
more like a halo.
Yeah, like than wrapping it around your neck.
Yeah, I don't even know exactly how to describe them. They're like a foam neck pillow with like a vinyl or something covering.
Oh, yeah.
And they even had like a little tail with the weight going down.
It was
it's
for
like
bathtubs.
Oh yeah, it's like exactly the width of your neck, or a little wider, I guess, but not wider than your shoulders, right? So pretty narrow. It's like a half crescent kind of coming up. It was foam on the inside, and then covered, and it had this little weight so that it wouldn't wander off throughout the bathtub or something like that.
No. It was meant in a bathtub. We didn't use it like this, but in a bathtub.
We just cut off the weight.
It was meant to sit on one side of the bathtub, and that little part goes over the lip of the tub, and then that metal
is that
thing.
What it was?
Yeah, it was a magnet too. It would stick to the back of the tub, and it would keep.
I never
the
got
pillow
that.
Actually, like solidly in location on your tub, so you could like rest your head on it.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense than what I was thinking.
So we cut off the weights, and then sometimes we'd leave them on because the main problem was with these, they would just slip out from under your head really
Super
easily.
slippery.
And almost like leaving the tail like stabilized them a little bit. We found out after a little bit.
But yeah, those are just way too. That's a good.
Yeah.
If something's less than the width of your shoulders and it doesn't actually have like a hole for your head to fit into where it's going to hold the pillow in place, then you might hit this problem where it's just sliding all over the place and even hard to maintain. One other thing that came to mind too, as we were talking, which I was very excited about, was we have at least a couple staff members and customers who have used the pool noodles under their spine, like putting it lengthwise, kind of underneath their spine, and said that was a really nice stretch as well.
Oh, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, some kind of pool noodle experimentation going around. But yeah, the extra like kind of pressure right along there and the buoyancy of that combined just meant that their kind of back, they felt like really expanded out. So I've heard that from at least 2 different people. That was a really pleasant way to use a pool noodle in the float tank.
Cool. I'm going to have to try that out.
I can't wait to hear about
it. I feel like that's it. Do you have anything else to say?
No, that was a great answer.
Yeah, we nailed that one, I'm pretty sure. All right, well, if you guys have other questions that you want us to thoroughly and completely answer like we did this, you can hop over to floattanksolutions.com/podcast.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Right.